Our stance is that this formation is for South Africans. So South Africans must fund it. That is our stance. We're saying to the public, guys, night and rant every month.
Unemployment.
I know, guys.
Nkululeko on Cultr.
Uyabuzwa into abakutheni lento amadoda esenza i-podcast instead of going to therapy. Is there something wrong with us? Why do we do podcasts as opposed to doing therapy?
I think my thing is, why does it have to be mutually exclusive? I mean, you can do both, but personally, I don't have a problem with men doing podcasts. I feel like you guys are surfacing all the issues that you have, so we know, so it's out there in the open, and actually we can call it out.
Yeah, but we're using podcasts to spread toxic masculinity. We're using podcasts to bash women, and so on. I'm sure if you are on the social media space a lot, you would have seen even this platform being in the news recently with some of my guests.
Yeah.
I mean, I only ask questions and the guests say what they say.
Yeah.
And some of it, unfortunately, becomes newsworthy. Or fortunately for us in the branding, it becomes newsworthy, and so on and so forth. Would you encourage your children or your brothers to do podcasting?
So, when they say that you're using podcasts to bash women, or you're just using podcasts to expose what's happening behind closed doors. When I watch some of the podcasts by men, I'm like, oh, so these are the conversations that you're having. And I think that's important because then it gives us an opportunity to address and challenge and deal with the issues. While they're happening behind closed doors between just you guys, I don't think that's helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very important point that you bring across because men can be bigoted at times, and sometimes you want to see their bigotry. Sometimes we live with white neighbors. You don't know exactly what they think, but sometimes when they open podcasts, some of the things they say can be very revealing. It tells us more about what they think behind the scenes.
Exactly. So that's, for me, that's what's been helpful with men's podcasts. I'm like, oh, so this is who you are. And it gives an opportunity. It's an entry point. Gives an opportunity to have the conversation, but not only just for women, because, I mean, we don't always have to do the labor for you guys. For you guys to call each other out and for you guys to start dealing with the issues.
Yeah. Do you, in principle, support the idea then of shutting down those that appear to be clearly bigoted and sexist?
I do. I mean, if it's very clear that that's the agenda, I do support shutting that down. I don't know that legally that can happen.
Yeah.
But I support it because then that's a different conversation. There's an agenda here and it's destructive, and I don't think that we should have space for that.
There's an argument that could be made that my platform sometimes, because I have like very strong, not strong isn't like physically, but they have strong views.
Yeah.
That will call out the culture of Instagram and thirst trapping. And some of the language that they use is very, it's out there. But I understand the spirit of some of the calling out to go to look. You cannot be rewarding women for parading themselves and elevating them to becoming the leaders, and so on and so forth. And those views, for me, I find stimulating because you don't hear them often, but they are provocative as well.
Tell me about this elevating women to become leaders.
So characters like Abo Mihlali and characters like Abo Thiklionse, there is perhaps a thought that they are becoming leaders in a sense, leaders of the new school, leaders of the digital era, and they become role models for women. But then when you dig deep into what they do, something sinister comes out to go to, okay, they were dating this married person and that. So like it's a calling out of that type of culture, but sometimes the words that I use to call it out can come across as though they are sexist, even though I understand the spirit of them, because I listen to people. My job is to talk to people and listen to them. I'm like, I get the spirit of this.
So I think for me, the thing is that let women have agency. So let women be who they want to be. This thing of policing who women are is, and then saying that other women don't have the agency to decide whether or not they follow that and whether or not that's the culture that they follow. I think that's an issue. The language thing is an issue because that is a culture. That's a culture that berates women. And I think that you can call out things and you can have your opinion about things without one berating the other. 2, you can call out things without taking away the agency of people to decide whether or not that's the culture they want to embrace.
Yeah. I take that point as well. It's understandable that you would want people to decide for themselves whether or not they want to follow those people. However, because predominantly the digital era is pretty much designed by men, YouTube is 70% men in terms of consumption, and creation of YouTube, the algorithms is probably like over 90% men who work in that industry. We understand the behavior of the algorithms, that you encourage women, for example, on Instagram to dress a certain way for them to gain a following. I think some of the men that call that out is because they know, even the pioneers who started Twitter, who started Facebook, they know that when they were designing those algorithms, it was to encourage a certain type of posting. That when you post something, like you are a learned woman, a businesswoman, educated, that there are things that you would post that don't get too much traction.
Sure.
Whereas on the other side, all she needs to do is to post a bra and a bikini, which she has the right to. We don't have the right to police that. But when we speak out, we say, hopefully our kids won't get to have an over bombardment of that aspect. And we also have perhaps an equal share of women like yourselves who are learned, who have opinions that they want to share. We want to have that counterbalance.
That's fair. That's fair. I can take that. And I think that's an important conversation. And it's an important conversation for men and for women to have.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Nobuntu Hlazo Webster, she is the deputy leader of Build One South Africa. She's here today to talk about BOSA. Is it Bosa or Bosa? Bosa. There you go. Thank you very much for joining us. I think you'll gain a lot of points from the followers that it's very difficult to talk to political people without taking them on a detour. Like I took you on a detour that I was unprepared, and that was beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us. Talk to us about Build One South Africa. Who called you? What happened? Was there a meeting? Why are you the deputy leader? What happened? When?
So Build One South Africa is a new political formation. It's a different one. So we're here innovating in this space, and we're here creating something that's different because it's very clear that the things that we have, the platforms that we have, the political parties that we have, haven't worked for us. They've worked to a certain extent, but there's a need for something different. There's a need for change. There's a need for something that actually takes back power to the people. What makes us different is that, first of all, we're an umbrella body for independent candidates.
Oh.
That's actually
I didn't get that part when
it's a very important part.
I wasn't listening attentively when that part was brought across. Okay, please expand on that.
So we are an umbrella body for independent candidates in that we're saying to communities and to constituencies, gather around, organize yourselves, mobilize yourselves, and get a leader, nominate a leader that you want to represent you. Nominate this leader to Bosa. That leader will then go through a process, certain selection criteria, a process for us to then have a group of leaders from all over South Africa that we are saying is our list for Parliament come 2024. That's what we're saying. Furthermore, we're saying that this leader of yours gets to Parliament post 2024. You, as a group, as a community, as a constituency, are not happy with how they are performing. You're not happy with, and you feel like they no longer represent you. You have the right, as that constituency or as that group, to again come together in your numbers and file a motion of no confidence in that leader so that that leader can be withdrawn from Parliament. That's a thing that's not possible right now, directly from the people and from constituencies. So that's what makes us different. How did Bosa come about? So you know that there was the One SA movement, which was led by Mmusi Maimane, and it was empowering independent candidates. It was training independent candidates. It took independent candidates to local government elections last year, 2021. The idea now was that further to that, 2024 independent candidates will be able to stand with the full rights as political parties, with the full advantages of political parties, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. First of all, that was supposed to have happened in June already. That bill was supposed to have been amended, and that didn't happen. And now it's been postponed to end of December. But it looks like even right now, as it stands, the way it looks and what has been proposed would not give independent candidates the full rights to participate and the full kind of advantages that political parties have to participate in the 2024 elections. So this is how Bosa has come about to say, well, let's then aggregate the power of independent candidates. Let's come together and use that collective power and use those collective numbers to then go into 2024 as a collective of people who are aligned on values and who are aligned on the kind of South Africa that we want to build and we want to see.
Interesting. Why then does it have a structure that requires a president or a leader and a deputy leader like yourself? You are the deputy of that party. And I suppose maybe there's a secretary general, deputy or treasurer. What's the structure look like? Why does it need to have a structure if it's a conglomeration of independent candidates?
Because an organization has to run and has to be led towards a certain vision. So that's why there's a leader and there's a deputy leader. We don't have a secretary general and a treasurer and that kind of thing. We have a chief executive. We have people who are, our roles are all functional. Okay. You know, our roles are all functional in order to drive the organization. Our roles are to move the organization forward towards a certain vision. And there's a leader because every kind of organization has to have a leader and somebody who's driving the vision.
Who called you when and what was said? Were you part of the 1SA movement? Were you doing business and all of a sudden you were called into a series of meetings for you to be the deputy leader?
So other than being in business, I'm also an activist.
Sure.
You know, and so there are people that I've been meeting in these spaces of activism and getting to know. And this is a conversation that then started amongst a number of people to say, we need something that works like this. We need something different. And it was a conversation that started and eventually it was a formation. So over, I'd say, months, there was a conversation and then there was a formation eventually. And in the formation, they are what you call the inaugural members who then become members. And that's where, you know, the decisions are made as to let's launch, let's do this. This is what the manifesto, this is what the manifesto, the values, that type of thing looks like.
So, yeah, I did not really like the structure of it. I didn't expect it to be like a mother body for independent candidates in essence. So you would expect someone who has independent aspirations like former Chief Justice Mogoeng to be part of this, or would you be speaking to him and say, please join us under this umbrella, or what?
We're open to anybody. We're not speaking to people because the people have to be attracted to what we're doing. We have to know that there's somebody who looks at the values and, you know, our anchoring value is Ubuntu. We look at somebody who looks at those values and says, I can align with this, who hears the kind of policies that we're communicating and says, I can align with this, to come and say, I want to be a part of this. Because there's a danger in going and approaching people in that, you know, you're bringing people who might have not been themselves attracted to what you're saying and then trying to convince them to be part of your formation. But when I speak about the values of Ubuntu, often people will say something like, hey, Ubuntu is so broad, Ubuntu is so vague, but it's not. So we have a subset of values of Ubuntu, such as transparency, such as integrity, making sure that we have integrity among us, such as dignity. You know, one of the core subsets of Ubuntu is dignity, is making sure that the next person's dignity is protected. And when you look at governance right now, one of the things that is a loss to people is dignity. People lose their dignity because they don't have work. People lose their dignity because you go into a clinic and you're not, or into a hospital and you wait and you're not attended to while you're sick and that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of values. Accountability. You know, you look at corruption, and if people are accountable, you know, we'd have much less corruption than we see. But those types of things are the things we need to align on and the things we need to agree on, even in writing with the candidates.
Yeah. When you guys launched, there was a decent turnout. Where would those people have come from? Did you have to spread the word a lot in specific communities? And are you finding people responding to your message?
So I'm going to refer again to 1SA movement. So because there were those people that were already candidates in the 1SA movement. So there's constituencies, there's people who follow Mmusi Maimane, there's people who follow the work of the 1SA movement that have already been part of the movement. So some of the people were those people, a lot of the people were those people. They told other people and they said, come, there's this thing happening. And that's how we had those numbers. The response has been insane. We we were not expecting the response that we've had from South Africans, from people who were there on the day, the excitement on that day, like, you could feel it, and just the hope that there's something. The responses that we're getting from South Africans are that, we need something different. We need an alternative. We've been looking for one and now it's here. It's not to say there won't be a few naysayers here and there.
For sure.
There always are. But the overwhelming response has been one of positivity and excitement from South Africans.
Yeah, the unifying theme of build one South Africa. When you look at parties like the Economic Freedom Fighters, Economic Freedom in Our Lifetime, left-leaning in what they say or in their founding documents. And of course, there are other parties who are right-wing in their leanings. And some parties are nationalist parties. What is Bosa or Bosa's unifying thesis? Are you open to representing all South Africans? What do you guys represent, really?
So we're open to representing all South Africans because this is, why even in our name it's Build One South Africa. So that's the important thing. And you're going to say that this sounds not as technical as you probably want me to be. But when I talk about us being aligned on Ubuntu, if you talk about policies, and I'm going to make an example, you talk about an economic policy. And one of the things that Mmusi said on Saturday was a job in every home. And people were like, what? That's insane. But that is on the basis of us saying that we want to rebuild local economies. We want to stimulate township economies. We want to stimulate rural economies. And so then in doing that, you take ownership to people in the sense that people must own businesses. People must build businesses and government must be enabling. So the environment must be enabling, but also there needs to be a capital fund for small businesses that they can access fairly. We've had funds before and people aren't necessarily able to access them fairly, that they must be able to access fairly to build these businesses. All that kind of stuff speaks to the things about that I told you about Ubuntu. So our policies are entrenched in those values. Our policies make sure that for South Africans, we're able to say, let's get back your dignity by making sure that you have ownership. Let's get back our dignity by making sure that we're able to put jobs in every single home. So it is for every South African in that sense.
All right. What's your stance on the funding of political parties? I think there was a judgment that says that not retrospectively we should not unseal the CR17 documents, but going forward in future, I think it was the Constitutional Court that said we have the right as citizens to know who's funding political parties. So what's your stance on that? And where do you guys get the funds?
Our stance is that this formation is for South Africans. So South Africans must fund it. That is our stance. We're saying to the public, guys, night and rant every month.
Unemployment.
Guys, we have to fund it. But also having said that, somebody might have 5 rand every month, but somebody else might say, I'm willing to give 5,000 every month. Another South African business person might say, I'm willing to give so much once off. But our stance is that this is for South Africans and South Africans have to fund it. That's how we funded it now. We funded it amongst ourselves, amongst other people who believe in this, other South Africans who believe in this. And we're saying, if you're a South African, this is a platform that you must be funding.
Okay. And what is your take on... we are very conspiratorial in our conversations, even on podcasts. And we say, okay, Rob Hersoff is starting to speak now. He says, remove the ANC, Futsek, Ramaphosa, all the kind of language. And those of us who are conspiratorial, we infer that to say perhaps he's frustrated that whatever you're sending him to do is not doing. But of course, a speculative language. We don't know that for a fact. The intersection between business interests and political parties. I think globally we are starting to see it unraveling. I don't think it will ever stop because there will always be people with money who want to fund political parties to advance their own agendas. Perhaps maybe personally, have you been able to make that observation and have worries about that in as much as you're saying that you want South Africans to fund you, at some point there will be one South African who can make a significant donation, which is to the tune of 10 million, sometimes a billion, and that person perhaps expects something in return.
So I think that's why it's important that this is our approach, because that kind of funding needs to be aggregated. So you say that somebody might be able to give something significant, but that has to be aggregated amongst other South Africans whose collective contribution is also significant. I think that what you're saying is true. We see it across the world. It can't be denied. But I think that's why it's important that as South Africans, we need to commit that our contribution is able to be aggregated amongst other contributions of anybody else who might think that, you know, they have that kind of significant influence. Our influence has to be aggregated.
I get the aggregation part, because of course if 1 million South Africans contribute R5, that's a significant sum, because the mass number is significant. But still, you will still have a problem of one person wanting or expecting a return because they contributed 10 million. A singular human being. And what we saw from briefly, I think the independent media reported on this, that briefly when they were able to show us who funded Cyril Ramaphosa in 2017, national elections the ANC National Conference in 2017, they were able to show that these are the companies. Someone from E-Media donated 2 million, someone from this donated 3 million, and so on. And then this is what happened 6 months later, that these people were at the board of this parastatal, they became the chairman of this parastatal and that parastatal. So you could see that there is like this intersectionality, that when you make a significant donation, it's as if you know automatically that you qualify for something more than just an ordinary South African would get.
So that speaks to Bosa and any other political formation having integrity, because you have to have the integrity and the commitment to what you've set out to do, to the policies that you've put to deliver for South Africans, and that has to trump any other agenda that might want to influence what you do. And we're formed on that integrity. We're formed on that commitment to South Africans. And there's no way that there's anything that will, or any influence that will trump our commitment to South Africans and to the policies that we commit to South Africans.
Okay, maybe the direct question is, would you give a middle finger to a business person who gave you 5 million?
No, what do you mean when you give
5 million? But don't direct.
Basically, yeah. I don't know about middle finger. I don't do middle fingers. I generally don't communicate in that way. That's the male energy.
Sorry.
But yeah, no. South Africans come first. South Africans come first.
Okay.
Fully. Like there's no
terms and conditions apply.
Yeah.
Okay. We look forward to that. Can you talk about women and representation?
Sure.
You're the deputy leader. Why wouldn't you be a leader? Why shouldn't you be a leader of Bosa?
We have chosen a leader that at this point we believe is the right leader for this moment, for this time. We believe that he's displayed everything that we need for him to be a leader. It's not to say there'll never be a woman leader in Bosa at all. There definitely will be a woman leader in the future in Bosa, because there are women who are part of Bosa, who are members in Bosa, independent candidates of Bosa. So there will be a leader. But it's not to say the reason there isn't a woman basically right now as a leader is because Mmusi Maimane is not a woman. That's all it is. Mmusi Maimane is the leader, and he's not a woman.
Nobuntu Hlazo Webster is a woman.
Yes, she is.
So hypothetically, you were there to be a leader too. Well, even though you are a leader, a deputy leader.
I am a leader. I am a leader. I'm a leader in the formation. That I am deputy leader does not mean I don't have influence. It does not mean that I don't have a voice. I fully do. I would not be in a space where I feel that my contribution is not significant. Yeah.
Okay.
But so you ask about the representation of women.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I think that is very important. I don't believe in tokenism, though.
Oh yeah, I hate that too.
I don't believe in tokenism.
Break it down for the people. What does it mean?
I don't believe in having a woman there because there's a quota, and you're just now only. Quotas are important to make sure that the environment is enabling. Quotas are important to make sure that women, the advancement of women is important because women haven't had equal opportunity to men. They're important for that, but I don't believe in tokenism. I don't believe that there must be a woman there for the sake of there being a woman there. I don't believe in that. I believe that you have to have women in leadership because they deserve to be there. You have to have a woman in leadership because they've shown that they have what is needed in that particular role. I absolutely believe in that. And I believe there is no shortage of women like that in South Africa.
All right. And that's the end of the interview, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joking.
I was having so much fun. Jeez. I'm having fun. Don't do that.
I'm joking.
Don't do that.
Is this country, a difficult place for women to navigate? Like, is South Africa... So, I'm a township kid from Cape Town. And on any given 12-month period, there's between 12 to 18,000 murders in South Africa. Right, that's statistically proven as factual. 70 to 80% of those are inflicted by black men on other black men. This place is fatal for us. However, that is not necessarily the driven narrative. We should not be competing or doing Olympics of who's suffering more than the other. I'm just putting that across to say that I know for a fact that as I'm moving around, I can't even go back to my township actually. As I'm moving around, there's like an existing danger. That for me, my engagement with other black men are more serious in that they can be fatal. I completely understand that the statistics on women who can be sexually assaulted, unfortunately on YouTube can't use the R word, which is a shame. That the number statistically on a daily basis is very, very horrible. It's a horrendous number.
40,000 cases in the past year reported. Only the reported ones.
Yeah. Can you just do a critique on South Africa and how difficult it is for women to navigate this country, particularly black women?
It is difficult to be a woman in this country. It is difficult to be a woman in this country. Before we even get to the safety aspect, it's difficult to be a woman in this country just to be taken seriously. Upon your arrival in a boardroom, upon your arrival in a meeting, in a space, in a community meeting, whatever it is difficult for you to be taken seriously until you've proven yourself, until there's a sense that, oh, okay, she knows what she's talking about. The default position upon you presenting yourself as a woman is that I want to share something weird that was shared about me on Twitter.
Okay.
There was a poster for one of my interviews over the past week or so or whatever. And this is before the interview happened. So somebody tweets and says, oh, things are so bad in South Africa that slay queens think they can be in leadership.
So you're the slay queen?
Yeah. So you don't know me. You know nothing about me. You see a picture of me and maybe I'm pretty or whatever. So your assumption is that I'm a slay queen. So that is the default position upon which as a woman I come into any space. And in order to change that, usually the sense is that bring in some sort of male energy, right? Maybe dress harder, but don't be too, feminine. Don't be too pretty. And maybe I don't subscribe to that. I'll walk in all my femininity. But the truth is I then have to fight harder. And it then takes a little longer for you to take me seriously because I've come up and I've showed up as a woman. That tweet, I actually want to find it and keep it. Actually, now that I think about it, because that tweet is how women are treated in South Africa. It's the same reason why we're objectified and we're not safe. I, as a middle-class woman, will sit in an Uber. For somebody else, it'll be as they walk to a taxi. It will be, everywhere we go, I can never feel 100% safe. I can never, ever feel 100% safe in South Africa because I'm a woman. Mm. So it's very difficult as a woman. The space that I have come into of political leadership or public leadership is very difficult for women. I've been told by other women who are there. And I've already felt it. But we're here. We're here. No retreat, no surrender. And actually, the interesting thing is that currently right now, women are really going to be at the forefront of change. It has to do with a lot of things. Part of it has to do with the fact that, it's been proven even in research, that when women come into leadership, they take the whole community with them. So women think of back home more than men do. And this is researched. Women think of bringing the community along and making sure that their influence is influence that is for the community more than men do. And that's what the world needs now. That's what South Africa needs now. And there's going to be a rise in women leaders. But it's not easy. It's not because there's an environment that's enabling and that welcomes us.
Yeah. I had an interesting thought this morning on this topic. And I was like, okay, do I ask this or not? But it's not too controversial. Why does the ANC Women's League needs to be within the ANC? How far or how close are we to seeing a women-led party which represents women only? If I'm not mistaken, on the ballot you do see a gay party, if I'm not mistaken, on that ballot. Like there's like 23 parties or 24 parties on the national ballot, and you do see like a gay-only party. Would that be something that you would encourage, or it's sort of discriminatory in that it's for women only? Would you be averse to that idea?
I don't believe in a woman-only party unless the party's core objectives are to advance issues of women. I believe that you need men and women to take this country forward. I don't believe that you need only one gender. I believe you need men and women. I believe you need the LGBTI community. I believe you need everybody to take this country forward. And so I don't believe that. I believe that there can be political parties that represent the interests of women, just like they are
in every country. I think the split is usually like 55-45 men, like men and women. Yeah. And women are always the majority in every country.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like the thought is that if there's a woman party, all you need to do is just convince half of the eligible voting population, and you could possibly have a party that's led.
But then I don't believe you have every voice in the room. Yeah. And I think it's important to have every voice in the room, because this country, there are still other people in the country. And so for me, that's important. But I think it's important to have spaces where women can advance the issues of women. I think it's important to have spaces where women can collaborate and work together as women to make change in South Africa. In August, I launched the South African Women's Commission. And the South African Women's Commission brought women from all walks of life, from all over the country together. It was insane. It was electric. It was incredible. We brought women from all over, different sectors, different walks of life, informal trade, business, civil society, religion, everywhere, to come and say, what do we as women do to address the pressing issues in South Africa, like the education system, like unemployment, like the safety issue? What do we do? And we walked out of there with women who had pledged and who had committed to make a difference. My commitment was to make a difference by running for office. And now this is what I'm doing under the Bosa flag. But this is the commitment that we had from women. I think those spaces are very critical and very important to aggregate the power of women, and to have women, have some sort of representation in bringing change to South Africa. And actually to have a space where the minds and the power of women is free, do you get what I'm saying? Is free to be able to be used, and is free to be able to be brought together in collaboration and to do the things that need to happen in South Africa. But a woman-only political party, I would not be part of that.
You would not?
No.
Why not?
Not me.
Just not be me. There and be led by other women. I
can be led by other women in a space where there's men too. So I really think, that escalated fast. Jeez.
We're content creators, so every opportunity to mess around.
That escalated fast. I live with men, and I live in a country that has men. I can't do otherwise. They're here. They're part of this world, and yeah, we're here together. I mean, we can't pretend men don't exist. We can't pretend. You're here.
Men don't deserve anything. There's a significant movement of young men who are like, men don't deserve anything.
I don't believe in that, guys. I think we need to be fixing things. I think there are many issues to address. I think men have been problematic in many ways. Mm-hmm. And it's the patriarchy. So patriarchy is a problem and is a system we need to be dismantling every day. But I don't believe we need to be getting rid of men. I'm not there. I'm saying let's dismantle the system. Let's deal with the toxicity, and let's work together. Let's give space for women to lead, and let's work together. Oh, that's another thing, actually. Would you be led by a woman? I'm asking you on your own podcast.
No! That answer is a resounding no. I'm uncomfortable with that. Nah, I'll be good. I'll be led by women.
See, that's the thing.
Like, it's not a issue. Like, I can be led by women.
So men need to get to that.
Cultr is a videographer. We shot every video with her. Yeah. She's my videographer.
You sound like some of my best friends are black. But anyway. You're some of my best friends.
Would I be led by women? Am I toxic masculinity?
So far you've been fine with me. I don't know what other people do.
So you know why I asked that? Because there's a statement that I made that seems to freak a lot of men out. And I made it at the time of when we launched the SA Women's Commission. And what I said was, everybody needs to come along on the journey to building South Africa. But this one's going to be led by women. Mm. And that one freaked a lot of men out, like, what does that mean? Why must it be led by women? And I was funny enough, I was then at some point shortly after that, a couple of weeks later, I was presenting to Nigerian parliamentarians who are here in South Africa. Mm. And I mean, that was like 95% men. And, they were very uncomfortable with that. They were like, but why must it be led by women? But you participate. So there's a lot of South African men. Some are not as bold enough to say as a Nigerian men would be, but that can say, yeah, you guys must have a seat at the table. Yes, we believe in equality of women. They'll say we believe women must have opportunity, whatever, but don't lead us.
Yeah. I'm a very competitive person. So let me just engage with the question professionally. I'm a very competitive person. Whoever leads me, I will not undermine per se, but I will undress you as a man or a woman. I'm like, yo, why should you lead me? Yeah. So I've been uncomfortable with working, traditional work. I don't work at all. There's 2 companies that I'm part of, which are media companies with my partners, and I don't work. So I don't like the idea of being told what to do by people who are less skilled than myself. Sure. That's men and women. So that's like my mantra. I will be led by anyone. My business partners lead me in certain meetings, and I lead in certain meetings. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a very competitive person. If, like, I can go to war with you if I'm like, yo, I know that you're very skilled in this aspect of this, because I know my skills are literally in presenting and in sports, because I have a journalism background and I understand technical things about algorithms and stuff like that. But then there are other things like human aspects that I'm like, shit, I'm very weak at this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I would rather have someone else lead that. Even in negotiations, I'm so poor that in other negotiations for business, I've just taken the back seat and allow my partners to be leading that. Because if you say it's 50 rands to me, my ethic is to give you 50 rands for that and not ask you why. You know what I'm saying? And that speaks to my training, where I come from, my background, coming from a poor background, that you don't really question authority. Then, you know I still have that. But like the way that I am around with people who lead me, I don't work because I don't want to be told what to do by other people. And that's the way I would approach this kind of question. Would be like, yo, because Nobuntu Hlazo Webster have been around here and I know like she's gangster, let's go, yeah, bro.
Sure.
But I would scrutinize you.
You scrutinize me in the same way you scrutinize a man.
Yes.
And that's fair.
Yes, because I'm a competitive person.
That's
I'm
fair.
like, at the end of this thing, is this person the right person to take us forward? Type of thing. You know? But then there are men who are like literally just uncomfortable with the idea of women leaders.
They are, and they must get comfortable with it.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that you mentioned as well, which I completely agree with, is the tokenism. I do not like the idea that... So if there's a potential of 10 men who are competent in these things, I would rather have them if we cannot find a woman who's competent. You know, but of course the onus is on us to go and find the person, to use our resources, to stretch ourselves, to find the person. If Rakhele wasn't competent, we wouldn't be shooting together content, yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I would rather have competent people. So whether it's a man or a woman or a gay person or a lesbian, I would work with people. And we have shows on the channel where it's literally just LGBTQI issues.
Yeah.
Although I troll them, although in my male energy, I troll them. I'll be talking nonsense, but they know like there's mutual respect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Can we talk about
my thing is that the women are there.
Sure.
So whenever you get to a place and we're like, there's no women who can do this, you know, the women are there, and like you're saying, it's about finding them.
Yeah. Just like they will say there's no black competent people when there's white people, and I'm like, yo, bruh, do you guys really stretch your resources to go and find these people?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Can we talk about coalitions?
We can.
This, I don't know, like, hey, Tina, we are thought leaders as podcasters, and somehow we've literally driven South Africa to believe that in 2024 there will be a coalition government. What's Bosa's stance on that? Who would you work or not work with?
So it's very early now to say who we'd work with, to be very honest. I mean, it's premature. That's not a conversation we could have. But what I can tell you is that we are open to coalitions. Our very nature as a formation is one, you know, that is set up in that kind of way. It's about collaboration. It's about working with other South Africans. So we're open to a coalition. And we also believe that coalitions are going to be very important come 2024. We believe that it's going to be possible. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be possible to start, you know, shifting things in South Africa with a coalition government, and we're open to coalitions. Can't tell you who.
Yeah, that's you see,
early.
Like that's I know, like we are preempting something that's 2 years away, so it's gonna be very difficult for you. But perhaps I'm trying to locate a better question to ask. Where, given that Mmusi Maimane comes from the DA, for example, will it be a good look to work together with the DA, for example? Given that South Africa, and I said this to Carl Niehaus of the African National Congress, and we were grappling with the issue of coalitions, and I said the difficulty with the EFF, for example, colluding with the ANC is that it is pretty clear that at the point where the ANC receives less than 50% of the national vote, that the message is that we don't want you to lead. So it becomes messy when a political party then collude with them to give the ANC power that the people clearly said we don't want to give you anymore. You know, so those are the uncomfortable issues you have to be grappling with.
Yeah.
Do you go in a coalition that has perhaps in it the Freedom Front Plus, given what they represent, or the DA, given that Mmusi Maimane was from the DA and the way that he left, or the ANC, given that the people decided, like, we're not giving you the power of this country anymore. So those are the type of questions that you guys are going to have to grapple with.
They are. And I think how you have to look at that is you have to look at each political party on merit. And the merit is, will it be possible to work with these people towards what our commitment to South Africans is? Mm-hmm. And that's really the question. And like I say, I wish I could answer you, but it's early. It's really premature. I'll come back. I'm inviting myself.
You will come back.
I'll come back and we'll have the conversation when it's time.
You, as a deputy minister of whatever, having given your 3 or 5% to the ANC, and then they give you we'll give him Mmusi Maimane the.
I can't believe you've decided what we're doing when I don't know what we're doing.
You will come back. Sometimes we create clips and quotable moments. Okay. So when I'm wrong, it's still a clip. That this is what he said.
Yeah,
he was wrong. Okay. We create content with Twitter and Facebook and something in mind. Yeah, well, Ugotia, I preempted this. I usually do it in football. You'll say this.
Yeah.
There will be a 3-0, there will be a hat-trick, and then I look like a hero when it happens on Monday.
Let's see.
Yeah, well, but we shall see.
We shall see.
Can we talk about you for the next 10 minutes before we let you go?
Okay.
Sorry. Business, author, activism. Give us a little bit idea of then what kind of businesses. I know, like, when I was speaking to either your spokesperson or your PA, they were telling me that you were in the media entrepreneurship business. What was that about? And why would you move to politics if business is going well?
Business is going so well.
You're looking for a distraction.
It's been such an exciting time, actually, for our business. So I'm in the media business. I'm an executive producer. Mm-hmm. And we run a publishing company as well in my media business. I also have a consulting business, and we do enterprise and economic development consulting in that business, right?
You said you were a middle class woman.
Yes, working class even.
I don't know what's a successful business open to middle class.
There are different sizes of business in the world. Come on.
You are a multimillionaire.
I receive that. I receive.
That's my way of getting umkosi.
I see you. I'm ahead of you. Sure. So so I'm in business, and so everything that I have done, right? Everything I've done. I left corporate when I was 23, 24. And my reason for that was a burning fire, because I sat in a company, in a white-owned company, where I worked really hard, and I would look at the letterhead at the bottom, and it would be a whole bunch of men that I don't know, right? And I thought to myself, but there needs to be better representation in South Africa's economy, right? And I realized that, but that's up to us to do, to be very honest. We must go and set up these businesses. We must go and set up businesses that have Black female owners, sure. Businesses that have Black owners altogether, businesses that have a mixed group of owners, for instance, as well. And so I left for that reason. I also left because I really wanted to give young people, and ever since forever, and in my business and in my businesses, I've always had majority being young people that are in business. I wanted to give young people a space to learn, to grow, and then to be able to be empowered to start their own things. I really believe in entrepreneurship. I really do. And I believe that it is one of the keys to the kind of economy we want to see, a thriving economy in South Africa. So that is why I did that. That's why I do what I do. That's how I got into business. The activism, I sit on a number of NPO boards. I've led the Business Women's Association of South Africa. I've led the KZN Chamber of Commerce. I was founding president of the International Women's Forum Youth Chapter. All those things, I've been a part of those things because I wanted to be a part of change in South Africa. But a time has come where my change, what I feel that my impact that I can have is so limited, and that I now want to be part of a more significant direct influence towards how South Africa runs and where South Africa goes. That's why this transition that I'm on now.
Yeah. You're very impressive. Like, for me, I find you very impressive. Even in the way that we opened this conversation, I was like, nah, let's just mess around.
Sure.
I can't use the F word now. We're getting demonetized. And I was like, oh, you're good sports as well.
I'm glad you can't use the F word.
Good is such an uncomfortable thing. It's like, damn it, I have to tiptoe around this. Because the thing is, like, we conditioned this. But anyways, thank you, hip hop, for conditioning us. Like, you're such a great sport. Because one of the other things as well is that you can be like this. This is the beauty about this kind of interview, that you can be a very powerful, strong woman who can take a joke and punch back as well. Like, that's a sport you have to play. Yeah, because I'm even amongst men who are in corporate or executive. Yo, we talk nonsense. We talk nonsense about our mothers, our fathers. But you must be able to take it and give it back. It's in that spirit of that, and then you keep it moving. Yeah? So that's why I find your spirit impressive.
And in the same way, men must also learn our kind of banter too, our banter, how we socialize as well. Because the thing is that when you're in a male-dominated space, so politics is male-dominated. Yeah. When you're in a male-dominated space, you kind of, like you're saying, you must be a sport. But in the same way, men must also learn. And actually, I'm grateful to be around men who do that, who do understand our banter and, how women socialize, and who actually come along for that as well, and that's cool. That's cool, and that's where we need to get to.
I didn't know that you guys look at this area when you someone was talking about the deep print, and I was like, can't it? Because we are being told to respect you all the time, and that we can't expect jokes, and then do you guys make jokes about the deep print? And so you just were the first things that you look at when you look at it. This one is wearing tight pants. Can you see what's being revealed there? There's nothing wrong with that.
Don't make me blush.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. We must accept what we live in a world where that's... Is it awkward?
Yeah.
Why?
That you actually know that.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay, cool.
That you know that women do that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I learned it later on. Oh, you guys look at that. Because we are being told to respect you and all of that nonsense, which we do then eventually respect it, and then we don't know how we learn it. Like, we eventually learn it. Then we're like, oh, so how do we joke then? Like, how do we still... Because we have to be funny. Yeah, because Tina, it's in our spirit to be that. Yeah. Respect always comes across, and I think that's the answer to that. Like, respect, when you respect someone, it always shows. You could be joking, there could be banter, but respect it shows, man. It shows in little decisions. It shows in consulting someone about something who's a part of your team. It always shows, it shows in consulting. It shows in how you engage with your partner. It always shows. With respect to, the essence of whether or not you respect someone will always come through. All right. Last question.
Yeah.
What does South Africa look like post-2024? Do we still have an ESCOM crisis? Do we have a new political dispensation? Is the country a little bit better? 2024 is actually 30 years from 1994? That will be actually a remarkable moment. Actually, now that I think about it. Because it will be a 30-year anniversary from 1994. And there's a great potential that there's a new political dispensation.
Yeah.
What does South Africa look like to you in post-2024?
I think that we need to move from the post-liberation stuff. I think that's where we're going. I think that the objective of liberation organizations is to liberate. And I think that has been done to the extent that it could be. And now the reason we had to be free was so that we could then grow. We could then, there's a lot of rebuilding that needs to happen. And the reason why those who went before us had to liberate was because then there'd be a generation that needs to build. And it's time for that generation. I think that's what South Africa looks like post 2024. I think we have a new generation of leaders. I think they're going to come from different formations. And I think we are going to be working towards this South Africa that we'd hoped would happen in the first 30 years, and of which, there's some things that we have been able to see, but a lot that has been broken over the past couple of years. And now we have to go back. I mean, it's taken us back and fix that and then build on that. So I think South Africa looks like a new generation that is now about building, and, that understands and that was not part of that fabric or that culture of liberation. We're now the building. We're nation building, and it's time for nation building. I think that's what South Africa looks like. I think there's a lot of work to be done. You speak of Eskom. I don't think the Eskom crisis is going to be fixed overnight. It started a long time ago. And it didn't start today. And I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I also think there's opportunity, and I mean, I don't want to get into technical things because that's not your question, but there's opportunity to kind of diversify energy sources and all that kind of thing in order for us to move forward when it comes to Eskom. And there's some short-term interventions that can happen. But I think the sustainable and long-term solution to Eskom is going to take time. I think that will be the case with a number of things. You think of the education system. You don't change an education system overnight. But I think post-2024, we start the building and we start the growing of South Africa. And I think it's a new generation. I know it's a new generation.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Nobuntu Hlazo Webster, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Boom.